This morning, we're going to be talking about the pharmaceutical sector as far as information, or asset management, and we're going to be talking specifically about a committee that the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering has put in place called Pharma 4.0, and then we'll be talking about a project that the speakers on today's conference call have been working on and will continue to work on. And this is all about digital transformation in asset management. Again, we'll talk about Pharma 4.0 and the project FAME. This morning, I have Nick Armstrong, who is the CAI Global Director of Asset Management and Reliability. CAI was founded in 1996. CAI has developed global partnerships in providing professional services to enhance operational performance and reliability, primarily in highly regulated industries such as the pharmaceutical and biotech industries. Nick holds a BS degree in bioprocessing science and food science from North Carolina State University. He has production experience in biopharmaceutical, food, and personal care facilities. His focus is on early equipment management for capital project delivery, risk-based asset management, strategy development, smart predictive maintenance programs, and capital investment planning. Nick is an active member of the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering and is a key member in the Pharma 4.0 committee. Nick, I'd like to have you start from here.
Thanks, Bob. So before we get into talking about Pharma 4.0, it's important to understand Pharma 4.0's context in the greater industry. So this is set to mirror the industrial revolutions of 1, 2, 3, and 4. The first industrial revolution was the mechanizing agricultural products. The second revolution was the assembly line of Ford. The third revolution was instrumentation and controls and the advent of bringing computers onto the production line. And the fourth industrial revolution is how to get all of these items talking to each other and being able to make data-driven decisions from multiple data sources. What Pharma 4.0 does is it attempts to set a framework for how we do the digitization, achieve digital maturity within a highly regulated environment such as the pharmaceutical industry. Okay. On the right-hand side here, you'll see a graphic that really kind of outlines what the group is about. I'm not going to read the mission statement and whatnot, but I'll go through the diagram itself. So we're starting with a good basis of data integrity. We want to make sure that all of our information going in is complete and accurate, garbage in, garbage out type stuff. We then have 4 quadrants that we work within. Resourcing, so digitization, workforce of the future is a big part of this. As we move forward, we're going to have to train the workforce to be able to work within this paradigm. Information systems, so holistic control strategies. How do we get all these different systems to talk to each other? And I'll give an example of that in just a few minutes. Culturally, culturally from top to bottom, how do we get the CEO and the manufacturing technician all seeing the same data, all being able to make the same data-driven decisions? And then organization and processes. While ISO 55000, I think, covers a lot of this, this is kind of its main focus here in lifecycle management and a holistic control strategy. As you set your foundation of data integrity and you can achieve maturity in these 4 quadrants, this is the point in which you reach this digital maturity. Next slide, please, Bob. So just like with ISO 55000, the Pharma 4.0 has to start from the top down, right? We have to have a holistic strategy going forward. The organization really has to buy into this completely. Not only the organization, but working with outside vendors as well. Okay, so Bob, next slide, please. So the intent here is we're trying to drive data-driven decisions and drive them to the lowest level possible as we go into this. As I stated before, from the CEO to the manufacturing technician, they all need to be able to see the same data up and down the supply chain. All of the systems need to speak to each other. There has to be a strategy assigned with this, and there has to be full transparency between all of these control networks in order to make this happen. So, which leads me to the case study. In the pharma industry, our current operating paradigm is to create large amounts of bulk product. Okay, on the upper left-hand side, you'll see a photo of a kind of a typical pharmaceutical manufacturing plant. We're going to create thousands of gallons of pharmaceuticals in a bulk batch process. This is manufacturing a highly complex protein drug that requires a tremendous amount of control in order to verify safety for the patient. We create large stockpiles of this. We create large tanks of this material and then aliquot it into individual doses into vials, meaning that we have a one batch to many patients relationship. And in addition to that, this whole process can take 6+ months just to get to the final product from start to finish. And then finally, as I stated before, the complexity of the product requires a tremendous amount of oversight. So once a product is produced and it's ready for release, it now undergoes a full review cycle, which we call a batch review cycle. And this can take anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks. So this is our current operating paradigm. And while digitization and Pharma 4.0 and whatnot can certainly benefit this operational paradigm, in today's world, it makes us more competitive. It allows us to make better decisions. In the future, however, Pharma 4.0 is going to be a requirement in order to do business. And I'm going to go into exactly why. Where the industry going, one of the areas that the industry is going today is highly personalized therapies. We still have the same very complex protein structure that's going to come out. It requires the same amount of oversight, but we're going to be designing drugs directly for the patient. All right. So to give you an idea of what that supply chain looks like, you'll go down to your clinic, they'll draw a sample. That sample then gets shipped to the manufacturer. That manufacturer takes your sample, transforms it into a therapy, ships it back to your clinic, and that's injected into you as a treatment. This is unlike today's paradigm that's a one batch to many patients. This is one batch, one patient. Okay. In addition to this, it is many of these drugs have an extremely short shelf life. One of the shortest that I've seen to date is 96 hours. So that means from the time that it's removed, the sample is taken from the patient, it is transformed, it is shipped back to the patient, and it has to go back into the patient is 96 hours. Remember when I said that the review cycle today takes 6 to 12 weeks. In addition to that, we have to be able to ship these samples all over the country, all over the world in order to be able to do that. So really where the future of pharmaceuticals is heading in this direction is really what we talk about edge manufacturing. Okay, manufacturing as close to the patient as possible to decentralize everything that we're doing. In today's paradigm, we have a centralized plant. There may be one plant in the US, one plant in Europe that's manufacturing this product, goes out to all the patients. In tomorrow's world, in the upper right-hand side, you're going to see a hospital. Attached to that hospital will be a modular manufacturing suite in order to make that therapy. So now the supply chain looks like you're in the clinic, they take the sample, they walk it across the hall, they create the therapy for you, and they walk it back across the hall to inject. This decentralization and all the data surrounding this and all the workflows that have to happen and all the reviews that have to happen, we now have to take this review cycle from 6 to 12 weeks to 6 to 12 hours. Likely that review cycle is going to have to be done remotely. And in addition to that, if we have a large pharmaceutical company, they're literally managing hundreds, potentially thousands of these worldwide, while they're not centralized, their data has to be, and everything has to be talking to itself. Okay. So this is where we get into the concept of edge manufacturing, the skill sets required for this, the holistic strategy required this, the asset management, life cycle management required for this is extremely complex and intertwined. And so That's what we're driving Pharma 4.0. In addition to this, just to tie it into recent events, with a pandemic response, okay, as we're trying to develop vaccines for the pandemic, as we're trying to develop therapies for the pandemic, in the future, pandemics may become more geographically complex, where you may have versions of it in one area and not in another. This idea of edge manufacturing and getting us close to the patients, getting us close to the people in order to develop and administer it becomes even more important. The idea of being able to deploy modular manufacturing units directly attached to a hospital in order to treat those patients, we personally believe in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be how pharmaceutical does their business. So this complete integration now becomes a requirement in order to do business, rather than something that makes us more efficient and more competitive. Bob?
Okay, thanks, Nick. Again, this is why the digital transformation is so critical, I think, in the pharmaceutical industry, not just now, but we need to get things in place now so that way we can make this transition smoothly and make it so it becomes a reality. Some of the things that different organizations like the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering is doing, they've developed a good practice guide. Back in October 2015, a proposal was submitted to their guidance document committee to develop a pharma-specific good practice guide that was based on ISO 55000, the set of standards and the principles and other asset management good practices. That was approved, and then in November of last year, 2019, they actually published the ISPE Good Practice Guide for Asset Management. Again, it provides industry best practices and really kind of explains how pharma can take advantage of the ISO 55000 requirements and interpret it basically into what pharma needs for their highly regulated industry. From this, again, we look at this digital transformation. CAI, the company that Nick Armstrong and I work for, have basically set up a strategic initiative because we see the importance of this. We see where this is going. And then Nick and I are both part of the asset management reliability business area, and we're supporting our company with this initiative. And from that, we started a project called Project Fame, and we'll explain a little bit more about that. It's a proof of concept initiative that's focused on identifying, a digital asset information management model that pharma companies can use. And all these, the Asset Leadership Network is important in this. Mark Giuliani and his company, BIMStorm, CMMS Data Group, CAI, working together, we're trying to develop this so we can help with this digital transformation. When we look at the project, again, these are all the current speakers today will be talking about different pieces of it. FAME stands for Pharmaceutical Asset Information Management, just a name we chose for it. Again, the objective is to help asset owners derive more value from their assets by using both the ISPE Asset Management Guide and the ISO 55001 framework to develop, the integrated digital delivery model to help pharmaceutical organizations with this digital transformation. As far as our goals in this, we want to look at all the different digital processes and technologies that are available today and coming down, in the future. Again, we're looking at all of these different areas. And again, a couple of our other speakers will be talking about some of these. Again, some of the advancements we've seen with some of the augmented reality, the HMT1 or HoloLens kind of digital displays that you wear on your head, really are starting to see some really positive results with that. A friend of mine works in the petroleum industry, and he supports process controls, calibrations in with the rigs out in the Gulf of Mexico for a major petroleum company. Now they can contact him. He lives in Idaho. They can contact him at any time with the use, I think he's using HoloLens. He can be right there on the oil rig with the technician. He can be looking at a problem, a question. He can be doing training, and he can be interacting with it because you have the ability to circle an area, look over in this area or put an arrow and things like that. It's just kind of amazing as far as what's happening now with some of the digital technology, digital twins, actual system interaction that you can do with some of this augmented reality, devices.